Hello, I'm Charlie Penentoan. I will present about programming language. Language is one of the communication tools. Through language, humans can interact with other people. In addition, humans also use language to create programs on computers. The definition of programming language is a communication tool between humans as users with computers. The programming language contains the sequence of steps in solving a problem, so what commands or instructions given by the user can be executed by the computer. For the problem formulation, first, what is the definition of programming language? 2. What are the functions of the programming language? 3. What is the history of programming language? 4. What are the generations of the programming language? For the objective, 1. To know what is the definition of a programming language. 2. To know what are the functions of the programming language. 3. To know what is the history of programming language. And 4. To know what are the generations of the programming language. Definition of programming language. Programming language, or often termed computer language or computer programming language, are standard instructions for governing computers. This programming language is a set of syntax and semantic rules used to define computer programs. This language allows a programmer to determine exactly which data will be processed by the computer, how this data will be stored or forwarded, and what kind of steps will be taken in various situations exactly. Language is a standard instruction for ordering computers to perform certain functions. This programming language is a set of syntax and semantic rules used to define computer programs. 2. Function of the programming language. The function of the programming language is to instruct the computer to process data in accordance with the flow of thinking that we want. The output of the programming language is in the form of a program or application. Examples are programs used by cashiers in shopping malls or supermarkets, use of traffic lights on the highway, etc. Programming language that we know there are many in parts of the world. About computer science and technology today. Its development follows the high level of innovation carried out in the world of technology. Examples of programming language that we know include making games, antivirus, web and other technology applications. Computer programming language that we know include Java, Visual Basic, C++, C, COBOL, PHP, .NET, and hundreds of other languages. But of course, this language needs must be adjusted to the functions and device that use it. History of programming language. Era before 1940. In this period, there were programming languages that first appeared before the existence of modern computers, meaning programming language that were older than modern computers themselves. At the beginning of its appearance, programming languages were still in machine language code. Machine language is a language that consists of machine code and can only be interpreted indirectly by a computer machine. This machine language is classified as a low-level language because it is only in the code 0 and 1. Period 1940 to 1949. With machine language found many difficulties for the development and improvement of the program created at that time. In this era, computers with electric power sources were made, with very limited speeds and sufficient memory capacity for programmers to create programs. Then assembly language were created. Assembly language is a symbolic language of machine language. Each machine language code has its own symbol in assembly language. Period 1950 to 1959. Beginning in 1950, a modern programming language was created, which has developed and is widespread today. This language uses terms of or reserved words that are close to human language, such as read to read, write to write, and so on. In its development of the high-level programming language also consists of several programming methods, namely procedural programming and object-oriented programming. The location of the difference is if the procedural programming program is run by combining variables, procedures that are interrelated, and running sequentially, whereas in OOP, all tasks are run based on objects. The following are some programming languages that developed rapidly in this period. 1. Fortran stands for Formula Translator, developed by John W. Backus and his team. 2. LISP, short for List Processor, was discovered by John McCarthy and his team. 3. COBOL, which stands for Common Business Oriented Language, was created by the Short Range Committee, with the help of Grace Hopper playing a huge role here. Period 1960 to 1979 established the basic paradigm. The period between the period 1960 to 1979 had a big influence on the development of programming language. Many of the patterns of programming language that are currently being used are as follows. First, Simula, discovered by Nygaard and Dahl as a superset of Algol 960. Algol 60 is the first programming language designed to support object-oriented programming. Second, C, an initial stage of programming language system, developed by Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson at Bell Labs. The third, Smalltalk, presents a complete ground-up design of an object-oriented language. The fourth, Perlaud, designed by Kolmogorov, Russell, and Kowalski, is the first logic programming language. Period 1980 to 1989 module. This era is the beginning of console programming. One important trend in this era is a programming language designed for developing large-scale systems using modules. Modula, ADA, is a number of module systems developed in this era. Some programming languages that developed in this period include ADA, C++, Eiffel, Perl. Period 1990 to 1999. Visual programming. In this period, languages other than object-oriented have also been developed based on visual, making it easier to create application programs, starting with Python and Microsoft Visual Basic 1. Delphi developed from Pascal for Windows, until Visual Basic 5 launched with the ease of connecting to databases. 00 COBOL has been found in the Windows version. For most database programmers, it is undeniable that this era is the most productive era since the programming language was created. Some programming languages that developed in this period include Haskell, Python, Java, Ruby, 00 COBOL, Lua, ANSY, Common, Lisp. Thousand Cloud Period. At present, there is a tendency for programming language vendors to lead programmers only by using their products to create programs, even though it is realized that it is difficult to make a powerful program with only one programming language. This is certainly done with the aim of continuity of their business. But apart from all of that, there are two big concepts in this period where visual-based convenience has been brought to the internet and mobile-based. With the emergence of web-based service and internet-based and mobile platforms. The first concept that is examined is Microsoft's conception where visual. .NET will provide various programming languages such as VBNet, VC++net, ASP.NET, which is compiled with various languages but runs on one operating system, Windows. The second concept is an inverse concept of the first concept, which is what Sun Microsystem offers through its products Java, G2ME, JDK, namely compiling with one programming language and running in many operating systems. Generations of programming language. Generation 1, programming language or machine language. The first generation programming language was developed in the 1940s and early 1950s. All programs in this language must be coded in machine language as the computer's internal language that executes directly without translation. This language used binary codes 0 and 1 with a base of transistors, complicated, hard to memorize, and long. Section 2. Programming language. Assembly language. The second generation programming language used assembly language or assembly instead of binary codes. Assembly language is similar to machine language. So, to be a reliable assembly language programmer, then we must understand machine architecture, which is how the machine physically processes data. Programming language, high level language. Third generation programming language require a very complicated process of translation by computer called compiler and interpreter. The programming language in this generation is called procedural language. That is, the program must determine the right set of instructions needed to complete the given task. Examples of high-level language: Fortran, COBOL, Pascal, BASIC, Modula 2, ADA. Section 4. Programming language. Declarative language. The fourth generation programming language is a problem-oriented language because it allows users to solve problems with little code writing compared to procedural language. The fourth generation programming language uses a non-procedural approach. To get a result, a user does not need to tell in detail about how to get it. Instructions on this language approach the language of everyday conversation. 5. Programming language. The fifth programming language is often used to access database or create expert systems. This language is intended for natural language, which are as similar as possible to human relations. Examples of programming language used for humanitarian relations or artificial intelligence are Prolog and LISP. Programming language are often termed computer language or computer programming language, are standard instructions for governing computers. This programming language is a set of syntax and semantic rules used to define computer programs. The function of the programming language is to instruct the computer to process data in accordance with the flow of thinking that we want. The output of the programming language is in the form of a program or application. Examples are programs used by cashiers in shopping mall or supermarkets, use of traffic lights on the highway, etc. On era before 1940, programming language is known as machine language. Machine language is a language that consists of machine code and can only be interpreted directly by a computer machine. This machine language is classified as a low-level language because it is only the code 0 and 1. The first generation programming language was developed in the 1940s and early 1950s. All programs in this language must be coded in machine language as the computer's internal language that executes directly without translation. This language used binary codes 0 and 1 with the base of transistors, complicated, hard to memorize, and long. Fifth programming language is often used to access database or create expert systems. This language is intended for natural language which are as similar as possible to human relations. Examples of programming language used for humanitarian relations or artificial intelligence are Prolog and LISP. For the suggestion, in this world, there are many programming languages that have developed that can be used properly by humans in the development of their lives. For examples, programming language can be made for learning, can be useful in the field of economics, and many more benefits that we can get from programming language.